Hello everybody, and welcome to the Spikes video. And today, guys, we are going to be here at 2024 Trentino competing in round 1 of the Odin EMX 125 series. And there are a lot of pro players that signed up for this race, so I was super excited to get into it and just kind of see where I stack up. Now, I'm not the greatest on the 125 or just any of the two strokes in general in this game. It's not something that I ride too much, but when I do get on them, I do tend to have a lot of fun. So we're going to be getting on the KTM 125 today, which seems to be the meta in that class, but we're not going to be using a bike setup. The reason is because I don't have a 125 bike setup. I don't know who the hell even does. Clearly some of the guys in this class did, okay, which gave me a pretty big disadvantage in qualifying. I ended up qualifying P13 out of the 35 that made it into the race, so not terrible, all right, but not too great. All right, boys, on the gate here, you can see pretty decent gate, not too bad. We got the first corner right there in sight, but I didn't know how to start on this bike, and again, no bike setup, so I was a little bit, you know, kind of worried here I wasn't gonna get a very good jump. So my plan was just to let everyone go, do my tactic of going inside, tucking under, getting away from the carnage. Let's see if we can get a good start, boys. As you guys can see, perfect start from the Jan there. Honestly, I would consider that to be one of my better starts, actually, within the last few months. But, yeah, didn't go great, obviously. We kind of got tossed around there like a pinball. But listen, guys, I was on a mission. I knew a lot of guys were going to be hitting each other, okay? They were going to be touching each other like Diddy. And I knew that meant a lot of guys were going to hit the ground, which means we're going to get some passes. We're going to work up. See if we can get to the top 10 here at the end of this first lap. As you can see, everyone got physically assaulted out there, and we ended up getting into P8 by the end of the first lap. Are you serious? Did you guys watch that start where we got touched a lot? Okay, we got manhandled a little bit in that first corner, but you come out P8. That's just because you got to survive sometimes in this game. It's one of the most important things you can do. And look at that, P7's right here in front of us. I want a P5 in this race. Okay, I had a bit of a disadvantage without the setup. Didn't matter to me, boys. I wanted to see where I was at. All right, we got MXGP coming up soon. Outdoor series obviously going to happen this summer. I want to do really good. I got to get my outdoors legs under me. We're battling here for P7, but let's see if we can work up to a P5 and maybe even a podium, boys. lap under the belt, and we kind of did away with that guy in P7, and now we have taken over P7. But then I started to hear another, you know, screaming eagle right behind me, and I'm like, wait a second. Is he coming back for some more here? I didn't know who was behind me at this point, but it ended up being the MXB World Champion. I look back right here. I see Cam right behind me. I'm like, oh my God, he got physically harmed in that first corner as well. Something happened to him. I don't know how I got around him, but this dude's really quick, obviously. All right, this dude's got, you know, he's got some skills, so you can see here. Take different lines, try to cut down, try to get some speed on the outside, but it's just not going to be quicker. So I didn't really want to battle with him or, you know, get in harm's way with him. I don't want to hit the floorboards. It's still very early in this race, and I still kind of have to work out this bike and work out what gears I need to be in at certain situations, because that's really all that's important on these 125s. What gear are you in? How are you shifting, right? Like, I can easily hold this bike wide open around this track. I have the skills to do it, but if you're not in the right gear and you're not getting the correct power output, it's not going to do anything for you. So you can see here, I'm kind of struggling a little bit with the suspension, but we're trying to figure it out. We got a huge group in front of us. Podium's not that far away, boys. Let's keep hunting. Interesting few laps there, but we made some solid passes, and now we're up to the back of P5, which is Mr. Breezy. All right, now me and him were probably going around the same speed here, so I was honestly pretty confident I could get around him, and oh my God, he crashes right in front of me. That was scary, I'm not gonna lie. I almost took my handlebars. So now we are in P6, not P5. We're in P6. I want a P5, but I know Cam's up here, and Cam was moving. All right, he was on some rails, but I did see a guy in P4 that I knew was probably gonna fade a little bit. So, you know, if he faded back past us, that would put us in P5. But Breezy's also fairly quick, so I knew he was gonna come back as well. But man, this 125, I was giving this thing full beans. I was trying third gear, trying fourth gear in certain situations, trying to get some of these jumps, but some of them you just couldn't really clear on the 125. You just didn't have the horses, all right? Trentino is a big track, obviously not really scaled for 125s. And oh my God, Breezy's coming out of nowhere. I thought he was gonna touch me there almost, but I knew it was a bit of a battle on my hands here, so we gotta go for it, boys, come on. right, a couple good laps there. We're over halfway through the race now, so it's kind of getting to crunch time. The Ero's starting to come in, which is kind of tough on this 125. I really didn't know what line to take in that corner. It's kind of weird. If you go all the way outside, you have to avoid these really harsh braking bumps and kind of ride that wall. But then you run the risk hitting that tough block and going over the bars, or you cut in, which isn't as fast. I don't know. This is a track I've always done pretty bad on. Like, I have a bad history. I ended up missing MX of Nations in 2023 when we did qualifiers on this track. I raced really bad. So bad that I actually rage quit during that event. So that was pretty terrible. But yeah, don't have the greatest memories here at Trentino, but look at this. Breezy got me on that inside. That inside was sketchy to me, man. The Eroda was coming in. You can see this lapper doesn't move. I don't know what he's doing, but common lapper incidents there. I know I got to stay with Breezy here for P6, and then I knew there was a guy that was fading in P5, so I knew we were probably going to get him, which meant this really is the battle for P5. Drug the handlebar there. Tony, man, this E-road, it makes your bike lean over a lot more in these corners, so you really have to think about dragging the bar and just not doing that, because if you do that, you hit the flow. And if you hit the flow on a 125, you lose a lot of time. So staying up was very important, but this track was getting gnarly, and I'm making some mistakes, so I got to regain some mental composure. See if I can hang with Breezy here, bulls.
Joe Biden's on that thing. Get him off the bike. Get that man off of the bike. Y'all know he's a senior citizen, man, and that's as much citizen as you can get.
Breezy takes a little bit of a tumble there, and now we're into P5. I'm trying to get this inside. Dude, that inside was scaring me. I was getting it good the whole race, but I was definitely overthinking it a little bit, which you can't do. You got to send it at this point in the race, but we're into P5, and now I'm super happy. And listen, Cam really wasn't that far ahead here. He was about like 7 seconds up. I can beat the world champion here on a 125, but you can see here, I'm getting a little bit sketchy, man. This track is... it's getting to that point where things are going to start biting you if you don't got a good setup. So we got to send it, but we also got to be a little bit loose, but not too loose. Don't want to be hitting them floorboards.
Okay, we are cooked. Yep, we are absolutely cooked, chat. GG.
You could not give your front end a chance to go over that berm, and I did. I went into it a little bit too fast, a little bit too high on the rut, and front end just wouldn't stay in it. Suspension didn't want to stay in it, and so that was a really frustrating crash. It's also probably one of the worst places to crash because the bike has absolutely no pull once you try to get up that hill. So Breezy's still right here. Like, he's not that far ahead, but I kind of knew at this point, like, I gotta, like, click it into gear, boys. We were not riding very fast that lap either, so we're already losing time up to 4th. And if I want to beat Breezy here, we're gonna have to really commit. We're gonna have to go for it, see what we can do. Still possible though. We still got time. We just gotta go for it. Listen, boys, it took everything in my capabilities of mental compulsion to not leave the race in that very moment. But we stayed in, and then a couple laps later is what I'm showing you right here. We get a little bit close. We come here on the white flag, and he's right there in front of me. I gotta get him. This is for P5. This track is so rutted. All right, not having a setup, I'm not gonna lie, it nerfed the hell out of me. This bike was bouncing, freaking jumping jelly beans all around the track. I almost endoed like 30 times. It was surprising I only had one crash to this point, but this was gonna be a battle here, all right? But I had to really send it if I wanted to catch him. He's got a decent gap here, and my pace was already not the greatest, but we just gotta go for it, boys. Come on. Listen, the main point of this video is I didn't give up, all right? I didn't quit, all right? I did that like 3 times, 4 times. I think I did it like the next lap after that too. I don't even know what that was going on. But anyway, this is the last few corners here. We settled for a P6. Listen, no setup. It was decent, and I'm already pretty horrific on the 125 as is. So it was still fun though. So shout out to Odin for hosting it. I think there was a second moto, but I had some IRL stuff I had to do, so I didn't even do it. But listen, P6 for some fast guys. Obviously not the greatest race of all time, but it is what it is. If that's what you like, what else you have to do?